Well, welcome to the Activating and Mastering Your Gifts Frameworks Masterclass. I am Michael Interstellar, and I just want to first and foremost say thank you so much for taking the time to attune to this information, connect with me here for a little bit. I'm very honored and grateful also because I know that a lot of times on these pathways of working through some of these things that it takes to master and embody our gifts, and throughout the challenges and struggles and things like that we face in life, sometimes it can be a lot just to have the courage and vulnerability to reach out and ask for connection, guidance, assistance in these things. So thank you for doing that, because I also recognize that in this type of work, you're not just doing this for yourself, you're actually doing this for everybody. So thank you so much for that. The next thing that I want to get into here is a little bit of background on myself and how I got here, just to show that my story is, in a lot of ways, will contain maybe some similar themes to you and your pathway. And my story is really the essence of what I'm sharing here, right? Because I've had to go through my own challenges and struggles. And so I also understand you. I understand a lot of what you're going through. I've been through the struggles of having people not accept me or be afraid of my gifts and what it means in terms of them needing to confront their trauma, shadow, programming, conditioning, things like that. Having it feel more like a curse than a cure, which we'll be talking about how we take things from the curse to the cure, essentially, in some of these layers today. So I get it. I know having these types of gifts, psychic, intuitive, empathic gifts, can be a long, hard road. And I went through that road. And now this is why I'm here doing what I'm doing, and grateful to serve you and assist you, because I know how it is. And I've spent a long time assisting and serving many people like yourself now. And I found a lot of very highly valuable, practical tools and themes and things that can really accelerate people to the highest and best embodiment of themselves and that mastery. So let's just jump right into it. In 2019, I was in a major near-death car accident. I've had actually many NDEs, which are called near-death experiences in my life. Some of them where I've actually crossed over to the other side and came back, very intense experiences. However, in 2019, this was not one of those on a physical level. This car accident, essentially, a friend of mine who was driving the car, we had just picked up a new trailer, an Airstream trailer from a dealership, and it wasn't put on the hitch properly. And when we got onto the freeway, it essentially bounced up off the trailer hitch, caused us to jackknife the trailer, flipped into another trailer that was actually blowing past us, which shredded into millions of tiny little pieces, basically toothpicks. And but luckily, we were in a very solid vehicle. I had done some protection prayers around the car previous to the trip, which I never usually did. It just came through intuitively. And instead of flipping and rolling, the car nose dove into the pavement. The front left tire folded up underneath the car, and we came just short of rolling. And my friend and I in the car locked eyes, and while she saw in her mind's eye us rolling to our death, I maintained the field, staying aware of everything that was going on, and act of God, hand of God, angelic assistance we were ushered into a timeline where we came out more or less unscathed. I did see a chiropractor for some time. Nobody involved was seriously physically hurt. But the next day, synchronistically, of course, as these types of fated destined moments go, a very highly skilled and gifted Native American, part Toltec, Apache medicine woman had been scheduled to come into our house anyway and do some profound energy work on the house, the earth grid, and some one-on-one work on the people in the house. And the gentleman who I was there with, he offered to gift me a session with this woman because of what I had just went through. So graciously and gratefully, I said yes. And so this is when I was blessed to remember that, like many of you out there, I had these psychic, intuitive, powerful gifts in childhood. My childhood, they were extremely strong and activated. And I know this is a common story for many people with psychic, intuitive, empathic sensitivities. But then through a lack of understanding and awareness and guidance and receptivity in society, in my environment, in my family, I had asked to shut those gifts down very early in life. Essentially, I specifically had an experience where a child that I was at school with around the age of 7 or 8 was being extremely abusive and basically wouldn't listen to my boundaries and leave me alone. And so one of my specific gifts and abilities is to see into people's the roots of their darkest pain points, their trauma and things like that. And when he was coming at me, wouldn't leave me alone, I had utilized that gift to see something and essentially presented it to him, but in a way that wasn't very kind. I was just trying to get him to go away. And of course, he broke down crying and ran away. And my empathic abilities essentially had me tuning into how painful that was for me to present that to him in that way. And I'd asked to shut my gifts off. And of course, they can never totally be shut off, but they were extremely numbed out and kind of closed off. Well, in this session with this woman, she opened up what she called my soul grids, which we will get into in a little bit, what that is and how it works. But she went into my soul grids, opened up my subconscious, my auric energy bodies, my psychic field. And she had seen that, for one, that what is called an avatar, my avatar, you have an avatar, we all have them. My avatar, my higher self avatar was ready to drop into my body. Beyond this, she had saw that I had called in shutting those gifts down early on in life, and that I was scheduled and ready to start to bring those back online fully. And so, of course, I said yes, and this catalyzed a number of incredibly powerful and deep initiations, which I am still in, but there have been many, many layers and levels since then. Essentially, I went back to the house that I was staying in. And as soon as I got back to the house, I was fully blown wide open energetically. I was back to that sensitivity, perhaps even more than what I had when I was a kid. So I was in the house, and as people were talking to me, I was sensing into their trauma, programming, conditioning, psychically hearing their thoughts, feeling their feelings. And it was pretty intense. So at that point, I locked, not locked really, but like I kind of locked myself away in my room. Basically, I was asking to really not be disturbed very much. And I just took a lot of space and integration time. And as I integrated these things, I took a couple days of that. And then all of a sudden, synchronistically, this was the weekend early on in 2019 that the pandemic started to shut down everything in the United States. Of course, presidents on the TV saying, you know, okay, this state, the news is blaring, this state's shutting down, now this state's shutting down, and so on and so forth. People are fighting over toilet paper, all of that fun stuff. And what else was really interesting, because that house was on a ley line. If you're not familiar with what ley lines are the energetic grid lines of the earth. So just like our human body has energy lines, they're called nadis. These are where the acupuncture points are and things like that. The earth has those energy lines as well. And being on a ley line, I was also blown open into sensing the trauma programming conditioning of aspects of the whole planet, especially with what was going on. So these were some very powerful initiations happening very fast. And so I was still taking some time to integrate, and then I had enough integration that I felt, okay, I need to start kind of working back into quote unquote life, especially with what was going on. I wanted to check on what was going on with some of my friends and family because of what was going on. I opened up my phone, and immediately as I opened Facebook, this quote unquote random woman, just kind of an acquaintance, one of my followers on Facebook, opened up and messaged me almost instantly. And when she messaged me, the message came with this wave of energy. Essentially, this energy like went up my hand into my body. It was a very like kind of thick, dark, heavy energy that did not feel good. And luckily at that moment, the woman that did the session on me started to really communicate a lot with me psychically and start to guide me and coach me. Because what we realized had happened is I had not only reactivated my gifts, but I had absorbed and taken on many of hers, which were that ability to dive into somebody's soul grids and see the trauma programming conditioning and different things going on. And so thankfully she said, she guided me into what was happening. She said, what you are sensing and feeling right now is not yours. It belongs to this woman, and I'm going to guide you. And so at that moment, I tuned in and I was taken into a memory of this woman's from earlier on in her life, where I saw that she was still carrying a lot of guilt and shame from smoking cigarettes while her children were pregnant. And so I asked her about it. And I said, hey, I am, starting to tune into some new gifts. And I feel like that you may be still holding on to, what I'm seeing is you're holding on to some shame and guilt from smoking during your childhood, your parents' pregnancy. And she said, yes, that's true. And so we began to clear and repattern that for her. And that was kind of it. From there, I started to be guided by this woman and my higher self in how to really utilize these gifts in a way that could benefit the whole planet, right? I was also shown how to do some of this type of work on the body of the earth, the whole earth. And I ended up leaving the house that I was staying at and going through major initiations, which, like I said, are still continuing. Essentially, I was guided to start going back through all of my childhood trauma, the different experiences that I'd had in this life, the trauma, the programming from society, from religions, from philosophies, from basically you name it. From there, I was also guided even further to go through the trauma programming conditioning and things like that in past lives, lives on other planets and other galaxies, literally thousands and thousands of different lifetimes, going all the way back to when I had left Source and fully incarnated, or in first incarnated. So there's so much material. And so in that process, simultaneously, what was happening was I was being guided to how to do these things for and with others. I had already had a client practice with astrology and human design and gene keys, some powerful kind of personality typing systems and things like that, if you aren't familiar. And as I was continuing to do these one-on-one sessions for clients, what I noticed is that the work started to merge a little bit. So I'm reading people's charts and I'm getting shown and guided to see the roots of different shadows and traumas and things like that in their actual auric psychic field while I'm looking at and sharing with them about their charts and while they're sharing with me. And so what happened is essentially while doing those sessions, I was guided to this great amount of mastery and working with people in this way until I fully transitioned into working with people one-on-one and even in groups and couples doing this type of work. So that's a little bit about my story. And the reason that I wanted to share that was, of course, is multi-layered, because I want you to see and feel that I've had similar experiences to you, how I've come here today to want to do this work with you, and how I've come to understand that there are a lot of tools and tips and themes and practices and techniques that you can begin to use as a frameworks to activating and mastering your gifts as well. Because now, many years and many clients later, I've gathered these frameworks on how you can start to do this today, either with my assistance through one-on-one work, through a pathway that I've created now, through the online resource library that has lots of videos and information in specific, practical, powerful techniques, or you can just take this information that I'm going to share here today and just start to apply it to your life, even without me, because this will be a powerful class to teach you a lot of things either way. So the first aspect of this frameworks is what I call clearing and neutralization. And this has essentially to do with one of the biggest core pieces of this really is clearing and neutralizing the trauma programming and conditioning. Because a lot of what activating and mastering your gifts has to do with is becoming a clear conduit. It's not so much, it's less about doing things, although that is part of it. It's more about getting out of the way and shedding what's in the way to the activating and mastering of your gifts and becoming like that clear diamond-like energy and presence to allow all of who you are and who you have always been to shine forward, but in a way that is redefined and clear. And this type of trauma programming conditioning can be childhood, societal, past life, ancestral, can be abuse, religious, systemic, somatic, emotional, archonic, spiritual, psychic, interdimensional. There's a lot of different things that I've learned within myself and cleared and with people that I've worked with one-on-one. And what you are doing in this process is you are learning how to recognize one of the most important things in here that I can give to you right now to take away today is learning how to recognize when you are taking stuff on. Because a lot of the things that you might have going on, ancestral, past life, childhood, a lot of things, especially for psychic, empaths, sensitives, probably are not even yours. And this is what is really intense and interesting, is because psychic empaths are, of course, like energetic sponges. And let me tell you how this happens. So when I say learning to recognize how and when you are taking stuff on, and that a lot of stuff that you have may not even be yours, some people are like, why would I be doing that? Why does this happen? Well, one of the reasons that this happens on more of a human level is because empaths and sensitives, psychics, there are many names for words that people have adaptations of these types of gifts. When a child is a baby or very young, they are basically completely dependent on their caretakers, whoever that is, right? They require their caretakers to feed them or they will die, to change them, to clean them after going to the bathroom, and so on and so forth. There are many layers of why a baby child needs its caretakers. And so the other thing is that sensitives are often born into houses where the parents, the guardians, the caretakers may be extremely disassociated, not fully emotionally present, have a lot of trauma programming and conditioning that they are either unaware of or don't know how to deal with themselves, and or born into homes that, you know, are in broken homes, or even a lot of great homes, right, in modern society are actually not that great. Even if, you know, materially a lot of things were provided for you, simply modern day birthing methods in hospitals are very traumatizing when you get into this work and you really understand and see what's going on. And this is just the start, right? There's also school and how things are going on there, and the basically corruption of the education system. There's just so many layers. But because very young children are extremely sensitive to those things in the environment, essentially what can happen is they can become hyper aware of their environment. And that hyper awareness is an extension of the sensitivity, right? The psychicness, the empathicness, it's that extreme openness, because the child wants to tune in to the thoughts, the feelings, emotions of their caretakers, of the environment, of all the people in the environment, because they want to ensure that they're protected, that they survive, and so on and so forth. And then a lot of times what can happen is the child wants to alleviate the stress, the pain, and all of that from their caretakers and from the environment for many reasons, but one reason can be because they want to ensure that they are taken care of. Now, there are higher reasons than this that take place prior to incarnation as well. But we're not going to get into that today because I don't feel like it's necessarily in the scope of this chat. And it's kind of, it's not necessarily really relative to what we're trying to convey here in this class. But there are much greater reasons on like a higher spiritual level why these things happen. So how does this happen in daily life, and what can you do about it in order to start clearing and neutralizing, or like purifying and cleaning house, as I like to say? Because another thing that we can do is start to look at your auric fields, your body, energy bodies, like a house, right? And we're going to get into more about how that can help you in some of the next pieces. But what I want to share with here is a huge key that I discovered on this path of how we take things on and how we can start to recognize how and when this is happening. So if you have ever been in a conversation and maybe you're talking to one of your friends and you're like, hey, how's your day going? And they start to go, and maybe they start to vent a little bit. They're like, well, it's actually not going that great today. My, maybe their partner started to was gaslighting them. They just had an argument and they were being gaslit. Okay, let's just say. While that story is being told, many empaths, psychics, intuitives, we will find themselves putting themselves in the other person's shoes, right? That's called empathy. That's called compassion. That's one of your greatest gifts. And when it's not fully mastered and in more of one's conscious control, then it can actually become problematic. Because what happens is when you are listening to a story and you put yourself in the other person's shoes by superimposing yourself in either that situation they're in, or you start to tune into something similar that just happened to you that day or another time, you're essentially seeing yourself in that situation. You may even literally be seeing yourself in that situation that they were in earlier that day, as they're telling you, because you're psychic, intuitive, and empathic, right? When you do that, what you're doing is you are then energetically traveling into their energy field, into that story, into that situation, vibrationally matching it and pulling that energy into your system. So this is one of the major ways that other people's trauma programming conditioning comes into our field. The why that happens, why we do that can be multi-layered, right? And it is a gift, but it's not something that you want to be doing all the time in every situation, right? So one of the first things that you can do to begin clearing and neutralizing some of this stuff is actually preventing it before it even happens, right? And what I suggest for this is developing an energetic anchor point. This could be a physical object, a necklace, a crystal, breathing, watching your breathing. But what I most suggest is, although this may take a little bit of work, is tuning into an energetic object in your field. You can pick something that is sacred for you. Could be a feather, could be a crystal, could be a pine cone. And we're going to get into why I have this pine cone here in a little bit as well. But yeah, tuning into an energetic object, holding your awareness, your attention there lightly, while you are also tuning into the other person's story and what they have going on. And that way you can you stay anchored like a ship, right, to your own energy field while you're also listening and tuning in. Because, you know, you don't want to not be present, but you want to contain a core piece of your energy anchored to your system while you are listening. So another way is, another layer of this, right, is by the same token, it extends beyond this. It may not just be while I'm sorry, tuning into this for a moment. It may not be while you are in a conversation. It could also be while you are fantasizing, right? It could be in movies, on social media, where you are watching videos or tuning into other people's posts. It could be if you were out people watching and you were seeing somebody that maybe they're happy in a couple, right? And part of you wants to be happy in a couple right now. So you kind of superimpose yourself in their life and what they're doing, something like this, right? All of these ways can get very sneaky and kind of complex into how these different things are coming into your system. And so this is where we start to really learn our field, watching where our attention and our energy flows, because the pineal gland, right? The pineal gland is like the remote control to our ship, our vessel, our house, our instrument, right? It's what allows our attention to tune in like a frequency, because everything is vibration and frequency. It allows us to tune into the stations and the energies. And then our heart is like the satellite dish, right? Where all of that emotional coherence is expanded and attuned to. And that's what really allows us to open up and be that powerful engine and motor. And then we have a third major energy center in the womb, sacral, kind of lower small intestine area. And I'm going to get into how these things play into things in a little bit as well. So like I said, clearing and neutralizing. Now, some of you may be familiar with some things like sage, right? Some people sage to clear their energy fields. This is one technique, but I can assure you this is a very, very surface level cleaning. And what we're going to get into, what I get into when I work with clients are very, very powerful techniques and practices to clear anything, right? Not just the surface level stuff like, oh, I feel a little icky after that. We're talking about going into the root core patterns from childhood, past lives, and things like that. Literally pulling out the root and clearing them and getting them out of there for good. So clearing and neutralizing techniques, there are many out there, but clearing and neutralizing that trauma programming conditioning from your field so you no longer vibrate on those levels of even interacting with people energetically that have all of that stuff going on, no longer attracting those, the maybe narcissistic lovers who are constantly gaslighting you or, treating you in certain ways, things like that. And no longer attracting those same patterns in your work environment and so on and so forth, because a lot of those things are just based on systemic programming and things like that have been taken on through movies, through friends, family, through school, all of that sort of stuff. There's many layers of it. So the next aspect of this frameworks is repatterning and rebirthing. And this is where we develop inner boundaries, okay? Now, here's where we really get into what I shared about your energy field is like a house, okay? It's like a house and an instrument. But for this particular, we want to talk about how it's like a house, okay? So if you had a house with no walls and no windows, it would be very easy for anything that wanted to, more or less, to come in and out, right? I mean, unless you're standing in the house trying to police all of the flies coming in and out, mosquitoes, people, pets, animals, dirt, whatever it is. But that's going to get really tiring really fast to try and just be in a house with no walls and policing everything that's going in and out, right? It's going to allow a lot more dirt in. You're going to have to clean more often, so on and so forth. Correct? Well, yeah, so this is where inner energetic boundaries come into place. Now, a lot of people talk about boundaries regularly. Oh, it's important to have good boundaries in your life. And of course, a lot of psychics and empaths often struggle with having boundaries, sometimes even at all, right? Well, good external boundaries, quote unquote, start with good internal boundaries. And this is where it's important to start to become aware of and set up and connect to what I call your original divine organic blueprint, which are different layers of frequency and energy and the different dimensions inside of yourself, right? And below in the description, I'm actually going to give you for free a practice to start connecting you into what I call the living grid of liquid light, or the living organic grid of the web of life. And this will start to connect you into what I call your original divine organic blueprint, which is very much like your thumbprint. What do I mean by that? Is because everybody has a unique pattern, like their seed that grows and flowers into their avatar, their highest self. They're actually body of eternal life, because you are meant to actually, when things are aligned, you're meant to keep growing and evolving eternally, right? Even past what some people call death. And I actually know this for a fact because I've had multiple near-death experiences. So I can actually speak to this. I've had these experiences. But what I mean by your original divine organic blueprint as well is they have now found, and I will flash this up on the screen right now. They have now found that if you, due to certain ways to work with water, they've actually found that if you take a seed and you freeze it in water in a specific way, you can actually see the imprint of the blueprint of the flower that that seed is going to become, right? So this is what I mean by templates and blueprints and soul grids, because these are energies that are all around us, right? But as you know, just because there is that pattern, that imprint of that flower, that sunflower, doesn't mean that that seed will necessarily grow into that sunflower, right? Because of environmental conditions, all these things I call trauma programming, conditioning, in these different energies, right? Because if you don't feed that seed properly, it won't grow into a full sunflower. If it gets not enough light, too much light, it's in the wrong environment, so on and so forth, it won't grow into that perfected blueprint and imprint, right? So trauma programming, conditioning, and these different things are what essentially, it's like the ability to go back into that field and clear those things out and realign that pattern, because it can get distorted and shifted over time. And we can actually go into the genetics and reconnect you into your original divine organic blueprint. That's what I'm saying. This is not a imprint. This is your blueprint, like your thumbprint, right? And those inner boundaries, what we're doing is we're repatterning the nervous system. We want to repattern the DNA, the cells, your connection to source, and these bioenergetic fields that we're talking about, which are that imprint, right? And this is also what you have the ability to, as a psychic, empathic, intuitive. I have the ability to tune into these fields and work with you in a one-on-one fashion. And I also teach how to start to attune to these within yourself and to start doing this work on yourself. Because one of my number one things is when and if you are ready to get you sovereign and mastered over all these gifts, all these aspects of yourself. So you can rebirth and learn how to consistently rebirth into these more higher, authentic, aligned aspects of yourself and your avatar. So the next aspect of this framework is harmonizing and attuning. So as we re-imprint and reconnect you to the highest and best version of yourself, we're also attuning you to source coherence, as I like to call it, or your inner source. So if you were to check out that practice that I shared with you for free below, which you are more than welcome to go do it now and connect in as I'm sharing about it and attune, or you can do it later and come back to this and kind of attune. But this gets into all aspects of life, right? But in particular here, in terms of mastering and navigating, activating and mastering your gifts, there is, as you tune into that living field of light and energy to attune to your original divine organic blueprint, there is a column of energy, of light and energy frequency that runs from the fontanelle, right? It's the crown area of the head, all the way down through the central column and down through the root, all the way down into the core of the earth and up and out into the cosmos and the heavens, right? And so that central column of energy is where everything coalesces in your energy field. There's all these lines of energy that look like this, right? See all those lines of energy spiraling in towards if this thing will even let me show this here. See all those spiraling lines of energy that go into the center. Those are these lines of energy that have to do with your DNA. That's why there's a spiral motion into your DNA, because there's that pattern, right? That spiral pattern inside of you that is organizing the life energy within you, and it's assisting to regrow the cells of your body, because the cells of your body reproduce fully every 7 years. So that pattern that's growing all of your cells, organs, glands, tissues, nervous system, all of that is moving out of first that energetic imprint, like that sunflower, and then going into the actual physical DNA and the RNA. And there's all of these complex things going on that are dictating who you are and what you are in every single moment, right? So all of that coalesces at the center, right? In the center of the pineal gland. The throat is another major center, the heart, the sacral, which is also, that womb area and the root down there. But the major center that we want to most notably pay attention to right now are womb, heart, pineal. Because in that center point where all of that energy comes together, you have the ability to sense what is highest and best for you, right? You ever heard people say, oh, that's a vibe, right? Because everything is made of frequency and vibration. And the scientific term for this is called coherence, right? And what it means is what is most in service to life, what is begetting the most amount of life, where the most life energy is flowing. And the more you are attuned to and in service to coherence and that frequency, the more you serve life and the more life serves you. Because that is the force of life itself. And life wants to make more life, right? It wants to grow and it wants to keep becoming more intelligent, more organized, more perfected, right? And what's interesting about this is this energy, which I call the divine child here, right? The divine child is the coherence, okay? Because it's the child, okay? It's the byproduct of the pattern, right? This pattern here, this blueprint. And the pattern is the father, the masculine aspect. The mother is the nourishment, the actual substance here, right? Which is this living liquid light, blood of the whole universe that surrounds us. It makes up everything, right? It's a liquid plasma energy, plasma in our blood, makes up our DNA. It's all a living field of liquid light. And so we organize that pattern and we tune into what's the inner child, that's coherence. And the more you can become attuned and harmonize and sensitize to coherence, then you can know what's yours and what's not yours, because you can sense it. Oh, I can sense the raising of frequency, thus more coherence in that. You can ask yourself, you ever had emotions going on and feeling things within you? People ask me, how can I know what's mine and not what's not mine? You can just ask. You can tune in to an emotion and say, is this mine? And if you are attuned to that harmony and coherence, that source within you, source will answer. They'll say yes or no. You can hear it within your head, or you could sense it as a raising of vibration or a lowering of vibration, right? Is it your vibe or is it not? That's why people say, oh, that's a vibe. What they're sensing is there's more coherence for them in that whatever they're tuning into, the music, whatever it is. Oh, that's a vibe. So this also gets into energetic hygiene. Energetic hygiene is very important. The more coherence that you create, the more you elevate your field and organize your field, the more that you are also going to start to tune into what types of information you're taking in, what you're eating, what you're looking at in social media, because all those things can imprint you, what you are, who you are hanging out with, what's their energy like, right? And you're going to be able to navigate through that coherence, and a lot of things will just start to fall off. The more coherence, the more you elevate your frequency and organize it and clear all of that gunk out, the more you'll only be attracting and connecting with things that are resonant with you and that are a resonant vibrational match. So the last piece here, oh no, we have two more. Integrate and align is the next piece of this framework. So as you do this emotional work and realign your energy body and clear the trauma programming condition, become more coherent, raising your energy and frequency, integration and alignment is very important. And this is where, as you do emotional work, as you do inner child work and trauma work and things like that, you really want to make sure that you are integrating. And integration means where you are allowing things to reorganize and resettle and realign, and actually have, right, we talked about that sunflower pattern. So as you tune into this new pattern of your higher self, your greater avatar, those energies which you can't necessarily see with the naked eye, maybe as a psychic intuitive empath, you can see those energies, but as with your naked eye, you can't see those energies. So those unseen energies, they really need to land and settle and integrate into the cellular structures, into the body's water, into the body, into the bones, the marrow, all of that. They really need to go through that integration potential. And this ensures that as you are going forward into your daily life, this could be things like taking a Epsom salt bath or going into the ocean, walking barefoot on the ground, right? There are a lot of techniques and tools that we have for that integration alignment. Integration can also be having a supportive group or a person or a guide to assist you in processing some stuff and assisting you to let you know what type of experiences that you're going through, right? Like you may have a question like, whoa, this happened. So having that, kind of like mentor type of person can really assist in that integration, that alignment period, so that you stay on center and on that vibratory frequency and you can really land it. And the last part of this framework is embodying and co-creating. So this is where, after you integrated, now you are embodying this new you. And this is where you really learn how to listen and connect to the body, right? You want to learn how to start to listen to your body. Your body has its own living intelligence, right? That you can actually communicate with and interact with. And by learning to communicate and connect with the vastness of your body is literally a universe, a multiverse, right? They're literally aspects of you that correspond to places outside, quote unquote, in the galaxy, right? For example, the speech centers in the brain, they call the Bronca and Wernicke centers, correspond to Sirius, the star Sirius, which is why the Sirius has a connection with the dog star, because the language centers, which are programmable. So there's a lot of deep vastness in your body. So the more you can learn to communicate with your body and listen to it and develop a relationship to it, then you can really start to embody these higher expanded aspects of yourself. And then you can begin how to learn how to nourish that avatar and your gifts, right? And really begin to master and activate these things, because you can learn how to nourish your body properly and get into a beautiful relationship where you can be working in concert, in harmony with your body. And as you do that, then you can really begin to apply all of these things into your everyday life, right? Into how you show up into whatever you're doing for work, for play. So you can be the highest and best parent or student or lawyer or doctor or healer or yoga instructor, whatever it is that you do, right? Because mastering and activating those gifts of your empathy and your compassion, your psychic intuitive nature, those can be a valuable asset to all walks of life, right? Just because you have those gifts doesn't mean you need to be like doing what I'm doing and being a guide, coach, healer, shamanic practitioner, things like that. You can bring these things into any walk of life, because you are elevating the consciousness of the whole planet by carrying these gifts with you, but in a way that is, like I said, a cure, not a curse, by actually strengthening these things more, right? It's about becoming more sensitive, more attuned, right? More coherent. And as you become more sensitive, more attuned, more coherent, your gifts expand, they get more powerful, but you get more stable, more grounded, more sovereign, more connected to your own frequency with those proper boundaries and sensitivity, like the fence, being able to see what comes in and out. You belong, you don't, clearing this. You don't belong in here, gonna sweep this floor, get this dirt out of here. And you become anchored and stable and sovereign, and really the empowered master of your gifts. And so that's the gist of the mastering and embodying, activating and mastering and embodying your gift frameworks. And so I offer a specific pathway around this. If you're watching this video, I call it the Embodied Soul Pathway, where we work together over time, over 3 to 6 month period in the least, and we design something specifically just for you, because this is the thing: is you are completely unique. This frameworks that I just shared about, you want to start to tune into how it can apply specifically to your life, what works best for you, your unique, original, divine, organic blueprint, because we're all different. We're all unique. That is the child energy. You are the unique child of this creation, the divine child. And we can go in and we can re-imprint and reorganize everything to what is highest and best for you, and develop things specifically that work with your life, your schedule, your what you have going on financially, whatever that it is. I work to custom design things to what works highest and best for you. And we have an initial period where we get into this, and if you don't feel it's aligned or working in the initial period, you can have your money back. Because that's how confident that I am in this work and what we can design together. And so there's kind of like a trial, get to know you period. And lastly, there's many things that you get access to. If you want to, I would love to do a connection call with you. This is like a 15 to 30-minute call where we attune into this frameworks and how we can build something, design something custom for you, how it all works, everything that you get access to, all the resources, the online resource portal, the groups, the information, the classes, all of that. And if it doesn't feel aligned for you, I am just so grateful to deliver you this information that I have for you today to assist you in moving forward. Because if I could just give you and gift you the link below with that tool, which is extremely powerful, foundational core piece of being able to master and activate your gifts. And I can give you the information in this video, and you can walk forward more attuned and aligned and in the know. That alone for me is great. And if you want to hear more, I would love to connect with you and get into what that might look like. And thank you so much for sharing this time and the space and this moment and this ceremony with me. And I really appreciate you. And I hope that you have a blessed rest of your day, whatever it is you're doing out there.